Test, test. Uh, Looks like we may be working. Okay, we're trying to check the audio here and start the biology session. If you can hear us, please type into the Q&A. We can hear at, and whatever site you're at, your school name. Once we verify that each site can hear, then we will get started. Thank you. You can hear. Good. We're waiting for them to do Q&A. They should be doing this. Okay, it does look like we have audio in some places. We're going to give it just a moment and make sure we verify that each school, each site is up and running, and then we will begin very shortly. Also, there's a group chat that would probably be easier to use to verify that you can hear Q&A. Move your mouse around, and you should see a blue text box in the top left, and that's your group chat button. Okay, again, please verify that you can hear it. We will begin very shortly.
Q&A is correct.
Okay, I want to verify what we're seeing. Again, I don't think the chat is going to work now, so you can continue to use the Q&A box. Just make it a question, and that's a good way to communicate with us. You can do that at any point during the session if you want to make a comment or ask a question. Of course, the entire group can see that, so Terry Yates, be careful what you type. Uh, right, right now, you should see the digital learning symbol, the icon. Let's see, Corinth Holders looks like you're up. Let's scroll down and see what other schools. Okay, we've got South Johnson High School's on board, Cleveland's on board, Princeton. Let's see, and I think Clayton is working now. Okay. Okay, guys, we're going to get started. I apologize for all the inconvenience. It's been a fun morning here, and I know that most of you are ready to move on and do your own thing. But I do hope you'll give us a little bit of your attention, and we'll do the best we can to make this painless and meaningful and relevant. The best we can. Let me just begin. One moment. All right, sorry about that. We're gonna go for it and continue unless you tell us otherwise. Hey guys, let me just start and introduce myself. My name is Joseph Capps. I teach at Cleveland High School, and let me take a moment to apologize. You have to listen to my voice. So while you're listening to my voice, if you'd like to picture Howie Mandel, we have the same haircut. Or if there's a different actor or actress, I guess, that you would rather picture, then you can do that. But anyway, this is the formality we've been required to use, and so we're going to try this. But anyway, like I said, I work at Cleveland High School. Let me take a moment and recognize my biology group. See if we can pull their picture up, give them a little airtime here. There they are. All right. So we'll just say hi there to the Cleveland biology group. And also I'd like to introduce my tag team partner, Lauren Ramsey. She's been teaching biology for this is her 10th year. She works at Clayton High School. Like I said, I'm at Cleveland High School. I've been teaching this is my 12th year. So all that means that Lauren and I have been teaching long enough to have a lot of bad habits. But Lauren's a very hard worker, and she's been a good partner this summer. Also, several of you have helped out earlier in the summer or in the spring. And anyway, so I appreciate those of you that are there, some of the initial meetings getting started. Let me also just tell you how I got involved in this process. It was not so I could be on a microphone and talk to you today. This is the part I don't enjoy. I love teaching biology and I care about my job, but doing this kind of stuff where I'm radio DJ is not what I had in mind. But well, I got involved because I knew that the county was going to think about biology curriculum and what that means and look at possibly redesigning part of it. And I said, well, man, that's going to affect my everyday job, and so I want to be a part of that. I do care about how we as a school do in terms of our biology department and our test scores, and I care about the county and what the scores look like. And so that's why I jumped on board and wanted to be a part of it. I should stop, though, and make a few disclaimers about this whole process. Let me begin and tell you that Lauren and I are on your team. We are stressed out biology teachers as well. We didn't necessarily sign up to be the presenters. We just were the ones that spent most of the time working on it this summer. And that's why we're presenting with you today. But we're on your side. I'd much rather be talking with you. Hopefully you hear it that way today and not us talking at you. Like I said, we're part of the biology group, and we understand that in biology you're working as hard as you can every day just to get through the curriculum. And so I want you to understand we're not trying to add anything to your plate. We have been resistant to some of the parts and ideas this summer because we understand what it's like to be in a biology classroom and have all those the stress of the pace and other things. So just know that we have tried to be an advocate for what's best for us as a biology group. I should let you know I personally I'm not going to literally follow all that we have created. We tried to create a skeleton, what fits well for as much of the county as possible, but this is certainly a work in progress, and I just want to make that claim. Number two disclaimer, this is not a new thing. We're not just adding one new thing to the plate. We're not. This is not just the next fad. I've been part of several professional developments. We work on it. The next year, you never hear of it again. Um, I don't think this is a process that should just go away. I think there's a lot of meaning in what we're doing. It will be something that we work on as we move forward. The third disclaimer is this is not just the same thing over again. It feels like a lot of times when we have professional development and we rethink things, it's just we're doing the same thing over and over and over. Why redo what's been done? Some components of it are redundant. You may say, why do we do a new pacing guide? And really the idea is not to redo what's been done, but to thoughtfully look at what we've done in the past and make improvements where necessary. But again, this is not a new thing. It's not the same thing over again. I think it's just a different process. Uh, Next, I do think it is relevant and meaningful. As a matter of fact, there have been many times this summer when if we didn't think something was useful, when we didn't think something was practical, then we tried to change it. We made a lot of format changes to some of the things the county was asking us to do so that it would be as practical and as useful as possible. So hopefully we will be able to convey that, and we'll see some value in what we've been working on. And the last thing I should share with you before we start is that this is certainly not complete. To be honest, we did not know about all of the steps until we finished a step. We thought we finished step 3, we probably were finished with what we needed to do for each unit. And then we would find out there was another step. And so we've somewhat been in the dark this summer. Also, really just been 2 of us working throughout most of the summer, and it's a pretty overwhelming process if it's done correctly. So I wish I just had a lot to share with you today. I wish I had a lot to share with you today that you could just say, hey, go here, use this. We have an outline. Let me pause 1 second, and I'll be right back. Okay,
Might be with their voice.
we're back on. We did a quick sound check. But anyway, guys, it's not complete. We have most of the first unit done. The other units, we have some of the pieces. There's an outline. And what I have really found to be beneficial is the process. And so we'll have to talk about how we're going to move forward with the process. But it's not just something that's finished and ready to use. Again, I think the process is what is valuable. The next thing I'd like to address is how did we get here? Why is this all coming about? And so when I look at the timeline, it goes like this. The EOC was updated starting 2 years ago to match the updated standards, state standards. And I think we can agree that once the EOC was updated and we began using the new tests, scores across the state and the county, and for me personally, they went way down. I think I just saw in our data report yesterday that the state average was 45% proficiency. So that number's way down. And as a county, I think the question was, well, why are the scores going down and what can we do about it? There was an assumption, or there was some comments that maybe biology teachers aren't teaching the content, and I take a lot of offense to that, and I know you guys do as well. And so I want you to hear me. This is not about, well, if we'll just correct what we're teaching. I think for the most part across the county, everyone I've talked to, I mean, we're teaching the content. Biology really hasn't changed. There have been some standards that are stressed more than others now. But please don't hear this as we're not teaching the content. I do believe we're teaching the content. However, I think the question becomes, more of how do we assessing what our students actually know. Uh, Also, let me pause and say that if we're really concerned about test scores, I don't think that anything we're doing here is probably the number one component for improving scores. I mean, when I look at my classroom and we talk in our department, I think it's probably begins with student motivation. Um, and so, if that's an issue you see at your school or in your classroom, I would begin there. The second thing is student preparation. A lot of times students are motivated but don't follow through, and they don't prepare, they don't study, they don't follow what you've asked them to do. And I just know I'm very quick to blame the student for poor test performance, for poor EOC performance. I say, well, the student just didn't try, the student wasn't motivated, the student didn't study like I asked them to. So the question is, what can we do? Obviously, we try to motivate, we try to prepare students, give them the tools they need to be prepared. But what can we do? What else? If a student is motivated and they are prepared and they don't test well, what else can we do? We're not going to get to see the test. We're not going to get to preview the test to know outside the release test to know what it is that's on the test. What we can do is analyze and rethink not what we're teaching, but how we want our students to learn what we are teaching. We can look at the standard course of study, and we can, well, let me just say that when I read the standard course of study, I tend to zone in on the content. What are the vocabulary words? What's the content I need to teach? And I tend to skim over the verbiage. What is the verb that the standard is using for them to know that content? And so when this whole process begins, we're really looking at prioritizing standards and then looking at what the students actually required to know, not necessarily the content, but how they're supposed to know it. So I'll just, what I've learned this summer and going through the process, as a coach, I analyze everything. Every single night I watch film, I rethink everything we're doing. It's constant analyzing. I try to do the same thing in the classroom, probably not as much. And so this process has sort of helped me to analyze, well, why am I asking that question? Why is this question worded that way? If a student needs to know monomers and polymers, is it just knowing the monomer? Is it being able to compare one monomer with another monomer? What is the verb that's used in the release test item for that standard? And then am I doing the same thing in my classroom so that students are being prepared that way? So that's just a little background in how we got here to this process. And I think the next best thing is going to be to show you a couple of documents that are online. All right, the first thing I'll do is show you actually how to get to the documents. So Lauren's going to go through the screen online. She's going to log in. Hopefully you can follow along with what she is doing. So she's going to go to Johnston County Schools and log in from the Johnston County Schools homepage. Once she does that, then if you will notice in the very top left of the screen where it says select school, all of a sudden there will be a new icon there that says RCD units. She's going to click the RCD units and then select high school, and then there's a biology link, and it looks like everything's under biology introduction right now, so we'll click biology introduction. And you see several documents that have popped up. We're going to click first on the fourth document from the left, which is the biology syllabus. This is something we looked at way back, I think, in the spring, and we did not revisit this summer. So I just want to clarify, right now this is not something we're using. We were asked to create a template, sort of a guideline that could be used across the county for a syllabus, but this is not something I am currently using, and I think, again, we were just asked to create a skeleton. This is not something that we are implementing at this time, according to my knowledge. So I just want to clarify that because it is in the folder. I'm going to pause for 1 minute before we click on the next document, just in case there are any questions or comments. We are checking that and see if there's anything we need to address before we move on. So we'll just do a 1 minute pause for questions. All right, the next document we're going to look at is the first document here, which this is the Biology Standards and Unit Organization Template. And I just want to make a comment. The priority standard versus supporting standard, guys, I know in biology everything is important, and all we've tried to do is figure out what are the big ideas so that it just helps when you're teaching on in any unit. You can draw everything back to a big idea. I think in biology it's a lot about major concepts. It's about emphasizing certain points through all of your lessons, and so that's the intent of the priority standards. Not that supporting standards shouldn't be taught. We had a lot of difficulty doing this because we understand that everything in biology is important. Okay? All right, next. All right, the next document that we selected, we clicked here, is the Unit Planning Organizer, and this is the Unit Planning Organizer for Unit 1. This is the most complete document we have. Like I said, we thought we were finishing things up, and then we would get a new step to go through, and so we just kept going back to this one and working on it. And that's why the other planning organizers are probably about halfway complete. But what I like to do is just quickly walk through this document. Like I said, we try to make it incredibly practical and helpful, and so we changed a lot of the formatting that we were originally given. So first at the top you'll see unit of study, unit 1, and then the pacing. That comes right off the pacing guide. There's an overarching concept. Again, a big idea. You want to draw everything back to that concept. There's a priority standard, and then the priority standard is then unwrapped in the table with the green headings. Again, I would pay attention to the unwrapped skill. The verb that was often used there is the verb compare. Also, Bloom's level, we've identified that. So when we look at question stems, we try to match that, and you'll see that with our assessment here at the end of the document. Below are supporting standards. We just felt like when we went back through the supporting standards, it was easy to get overwhelmed and think, man, all of this needs to be taught at this one time. When a lot of these, so much of the biology standards are more cyclical. They come and they go, and it's each time you see the same concept, you might have more depth. So what we did was just highlight in red probably the most important part of that standard. For example, in Unit 1, there's a relationship between DNA, proteins, and amino acids. However, you're not going to, most likely not going to take time there to teach the process of actually protein synthesis. Just making a connection that DNA is the information for how proteins will later be made by essentially stacking amino acids. But we're not going to actually teach the process of transcription translation at this point in time. So that's why we put it in red. We thought that would make it helpful for what needs to be addressed there and what doesn't need to be addressed there. The essential questions, actually let's start with the corresponding big idea on the right. Again, big ideas we thought was one of the important parts of this process, to be able to draw everything back to a big idea. A lot of these big ideas are taken from the standard course of study. There will be the way the biology standards are written, there are often big ideas within the individual standards below, and so we try to draw it back to that. We also try to make the essential questions as practical as possible, real life examples. And again, you may have a host of other questions that are important. Some of these questions may not show up in your classroom, but the idea was to get students to make a connection between what we're doing in class and everyday life. So that's your essential questions and big ideas. We then included an EOC sample question. We just looked at the release test to see, how this material, this unit of study, how would it show up on the EOC? It's a good sample item to see how a student would be tested at the end of the semester. Below that are vocabulary terms. Again, we just compiled a list between the two of us, our best guess. Some of these words I may or may not use with every class. It could depend on if it's honors or not honors. Some of these were added because they were in the unpacked standards. But again, this is just a general list. Again, this is a work in progress, and this can all be modified and changed how we see fit. Next, we added a section, common student misconceptions. Again, we just thought it would be helpful and practical as you're reading through this. What are some things students might get confused on? Well, what are they often confused about? And again, this would be a list that would be nice for it to grow. If we would add things in as we noticed student misconceptions, I think it would be really helpful to share that across the county. And then honors implementation, what are some things that can be done to dig deeper for an honors group? Okay. All right, the next section of the document is engaging learning experiences. And when you read through this particular step of the process, really the concept here is, what are students going to remember 20 years from now? It's not necessarily the details of which monomer matches which polymer, but what activity, what experience, what connection can we make? The students remember, oh, I remember doing this in biology class, and they get some real world knowledge. And so I know most of us do some type of enzyme lab. We just rewrote this to be a little more specific, and again, to try to be as relevant as possible for that. So again, engaging learning experiences, what can we do in each unit? Try to give them some activity, some connection that 20 years from now they're able to remember learning in biology. Okay. The next is instructional resources and materials. We didn't fill this in with very much. I just put one video crash course on YouTube, has a video about macromolecules. But again, this would be something really beneficial that we could add into as well. Again, work in progress. We're all free to add that. Additionally, Randy Parker has a Symbaloo site with a lot of biology links, and that can be added here. A link just to his Symbaloo, again, which has a ton of biology resources. I know personally, often I just use Google to find resources, but this is a place where we can include specific resources for that unit. Suggested activity. All right, test. I think we're back up. That's another blurb. Yep, I'm going to share our screen here. And guys, we're almost done. So hang in there with us. All right, sorry about that. Terry Yates, if you'll stop pushing buttons, that probably won't happen. But hopefully we'll be able to finish up here. All right, your screen's looking crazy, but we're getting there. Okay, let's go ahead and Lauren, if you're, yeah, stay there, that's good. But again, guys, these questions, like in my classroom, I might use these as a homework questions, or I might put a focus question on the board as a review from the day before. But these questions, again, we tried to match the question stems to Bloom's level according to what is in the standard course of study. We try to match what the skill the students are supposed to know, not just the content, but the skill they're supposed to know with the content, and that's how we came up with these questions. We actually were doing this, and we didn't realize there were additional steps. I thought this was going to be one of the most practical things we could have done this summer, to have this for every unit. and I apologize. The two of us ran out of time once we started going back and doing some of the other steps. Um, but as we move forward, I think this would be really helpful if we could, you know, carefully and painstakingly sort of go through the process to continue writing these question sets for each unit that we can guess are going to match what's on the EOC. All right, well, I'm going to turn the mic off. We really have finished our presentation in terms of what we wanted to share, and I'm going to look for questions here and any other issues we need to address. Testing again? Yeah, we're on. Again, guys, we're going to pause and hang out here and look for questions. And so if you have anything you'd like to say or ask, please use the Q&A box. Okay, I'm going to address the future units question, and that's an excellent question because I'm not really sure. I will not be working on this very much in the fall. I can't meet face-to-face after school during the fall season, and we can work independently some on this and share it. It is Google Docs and it's live sharing, but we probably need some face-to-face contact. So I would suggest if you are really interested in being a part of some of this, I think it's an ongoing process. I would love to say by next fall we could have all of the units complete. I think, and again, for me personally, guys, it was going through the process that was most helpful, even more so than having an actual document and really looking at what the Standard Course of Study says. But I would contact, let's see, who. Okay, it will probably be to email Kelly Johnson at the county level. Kelly Johnson will be coordinating this moving forward, and we can set up some teams to continue working on it. One suggestion we had was maybe each school to take a unit as we move forward, but we're open to suggestions if you have any. We have another question about the RCD units link remaining on the JCS homepage. We were told this morning that that is the plan, that will remain there, and that'll be the easiest way to get to it. So hopefully so. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. It's hard for us to figure out exactly when everything's finished. Guys, I appreciate your patience. We have been trying to figure out just this morning how this would all work. So again, thank you for your patience and for having to listen to me. I would say you are free to enjoy your lunch. We will hang out for a few more minutes if there are any questions. It would help us if maybe each site would just send a farewell, peace out, and that we know you are that you are done and where you're going to lunch. No, anyway, we're finished. If you need anything from us, just send that to us as a question,
Oh,
and we will try and address it.
there's
Yeah.
a thing on the website for this. Ask questions.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye.